is going on, everyone? Judd here with Asphalt Kingdom, and we are on a real special freestyle jam today. They're all special, of course, but this one's actually this one's really, really kind of um, even a little bit deeper, more deeply special to me, and I'll tell you why. So, so first off, Marvin Joles, what is happening, man? It is good to be here with you, brother.
Oh man, it's good to be here. Not just with you, but just to be good to be here, right? So yeah, I'm in Wisconsin. It wasn't very long ago. I was in palm trees and surrounded by the Pacific Ocean and kicking my heels up a couple weeks ago, and then we were in Payvex together not too long ago. So I've been on the road a little bit and was like, hey man, it's time to get back to Wisconsin. And I get here and it's 8 degrees, 10 inches of snow. I'm shoveling out the sidewalk to get into the door here at Wis-Coat because my counterpart Kyla, who takes care of this place, is in Mexico. So we're just shifting. We're shifting back and forth, I guess.
Cool. Dude, I remember I'm gonna take all of you back and I'm gonna take us back to a time where we knew about each other in the wonderful online space that started to groove. There was this digital space that started to become kind of this place that content creators were starting to form these ideas and concepts of, wow, maybe I can put stuff out there that people may want to actually watch and see. And I remember meeting you before I actually met you physically on some of the content that you were pushing out in your real early
Yeah,
um, stages, man. And that
yeah.
was, you and I argue about this from time to time. I shouldn't say argue, we debate about the date and time of it. You're right for sure, by the way. I'm just a little bit older, I think, and we tend to lose a little bit of that good old
Well,
line.
luckily
But
I had
yeah,
proof, so it
you
helped.
do. So we met at the National Pavement Expo
Yeah.
in Charlotte, you tell me.
Hold up. Let me think
Was it in
here.
Cleveland or was it in Charlotte?
It wasn't. It was in Nashville, 2017.
See, I've got it totally screwed up now,
You know,
right?
I spoke at Cleveland, and in 2017 I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That was my first NPE. But through your content, I figured you would be there. Um, at that point, you and I were the only ones creating any type of content, and you were in front of me because you were creating informative videos for people who would use products at AK, and that was it. Like you were it. Like that was it. That's all I had, and you'd been doing it for about a year, maybe a little bit more. Um, but it was it, right? And I've been fortunate enough to be adopted by the green industry, and they had tons of contractors creating content over there for a good 4 or 5 years, probably. So they were way in front. It was great to be adopted by them, but that really wasn't my community, right? They were great guys, and they showed me a lot and taught me a lot. But I wanted that within our space, so I was a contractor. At very the beginning, I was really just trying to create content that created transparency for Wis-Coat because I knew nobody was doing it, and I knew if I did it well, people would be attracted to that because they would have a magnifying glass on a company locally that provides great work. Boom, that hit. But the byproduct of that was I was the only person doing that for their asphalt maintenance and maybe asphalt business that I know of at that time anywhere, right? So immediately those comment sections get lit up with people who own businesses, who work at asphalt businesses, who did seal coating for 30 years of their life. And everybody in the comments knew everything. And they all had different opinions. So everybody was right and everybody else was wrong. It was really unique. The problem with that was on my business social media pages, right? So um, I knew when you and I first met that I was going to keep creating content. I just wasn't sure the avenue or what it would turn into. But yeah, we go back a ways, and I knew back then what I wanted to do. It's just that you and I were the only ones doing it, and you know me, I'm like a sponge. So if there's somebody that's doing it somewhat, I want to meet them. I want to ask them the questions that I'm aching to ask, and go from there.
And do it better. You just missed that portion,
Yes,
right?
I want to improve. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, it's the only way, right? It's like in life in general, we go through the things that we've gone through in our life to get to where we are in the ultimate present. And then it's
Yeah.
up to us to create the path forward with either as a solopreneur doing it, or we're going to actually be a part of a circle that's going to do it together. And you know, whether people are involved from a business standpoint or not, having the right circle is important for that press forward. So take us back like to that time when you still do have Wis-Coat, but take us back to the time as you're creating content for Wis-Coat, or are you creating content for personal brand, or what was the intent behind developing the content truly?
I never really intended on the personal brand thing. Once I started getting those comments that, and I'm open, like I'm not too proud of a guy, right? I have no problem being like, I know nothing, or I definitely don't know about this, but show me. When I would get those, it was a double-edged sword because I'd get those comments and then I would be like, well, then show me. Like you create the content. Like I'm gonna have two things happen. I'm gonna have a piece of education come out if you reply and create a piece of content. And also, there's going to be another content creator within the space. Like immediately, if I challenge you and you create a piece of content, you're a content creator now in the asphalt industry, which feels good not to be alone anymore. I'm an introvert really at heart, or at least I used to be. I kind of shedded, I shed that through this whole process over the years. But then also, I was going to learn at least a different tactic, not necessarily how to do it better, but something I could try to do better. And it worked out, and my business improved, right? Our practices improved, and I would get DMs then certain things of people who maybe were too shy to create content, but did know their stuff. What I really enjoyed was when I knew that somebody knew their stuff and I seen they had chops for creating content, I would really build them up. So, there's a good chunk of content creators within our industry now. And to me, they're the studs. There's guys that do it better than I do. They have a better vision of how to do it better than I do. Um, and I that gets me excited because Eli loves to do that stuff now. Like he's excited about all those things. So I never really intended to be the best. I never really intended to be the biggest. Initially all I wanted to do was learn how to do my business better. And um, I hated knocking doors. I'd done that for a long time. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to make sure I created content that drove customers to our website or our phone. Thankfully, like I don't have to do that ever again. I don't feel like, which is great. But at the same time, it allowed me some freedom then and created space for me to start creating content. And it wasn't until I started getting asked by like Pavement Magazine to write articles or by some of the conferences to speak or even some of the manufacturers and suppliers to come like be at their open house and speak. And then it went from like just show up. They were just like, hey, we just want you to show up. Well, then that was cool for a while and it was awesome. I was like, dude, I'm living like a crazy life right now being invited to these places. Then after a while, I was like, hey, it's actually costing me money to go do this, and I'm not being at my place. And that's when some of the first initial things of like, hey, we'll cover that. Like, just get your butt here. Um, that's really when things started to change, man, because it was just like
Mm.
how I have seen it happen, but I didn't expect it to happen in our industry. And it started small, but it's unique. We've really taken on a unique thing in our industry. But I would say overall, it's way, way better than it was when I chased you down at MP and was like, hey, 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 hey.
So for sure, I remember it. I remember um,
You were holding one of your
exactly.
edgers in your hand. You had
Yeah,
one
I
of
was
your
holding
edgers
it.
in your
I
hand.
was holding, yeah, literally running over to the Able booth. Yeah,
Yeah, that's where it
exactly.
was. It was the Able booth. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, wow. Yeah, so when I think back to the purpose behind your content was actually more driven towards Wis-Coat and generating leads for Wis-Coat to create
Yeah.
awareness for your markets to be able to identify that you're a pavement management business or you're a
Professional.
pavement business
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah.
And and now you're creating that social proof around that to then actually having other business owners engaging with you through the comments, because it wasn't just the potential customer for Wis-Coat, it was contractors that were now engaging with you, and you were building relationships and you were becoming an influencer in
Correct.
the in the industry, to then having manufacturers and vendors and magazines that are, of course, have authority in the industry reaching out to you, to then, of course, a big, big shift, which was Blacktop Banner.
Yeah, yeah. So once the content, like the video content, you know, we're a weird industry when it comes to consuming content. I've been, at first glance, if you try to put out content in our industry, you'll be like, I'm failing miserably. Like, especially if it's to get views or do whatever, you're like, oh, dude, this is never gonna take. And then when you go to like the conferences or events or whatever, and people are like mobbing you and telling you like, hey, yes, oh, hey, I love your content, this and this. And I'm like, I didn't even know you watched it, right? Like people will not hit a like button. They definitely aren't going to share your content. Like that's not a thing. But the only thing they love to do is comment who's wrong, who's right, whatever. They don't necessarily do that on my content anymore, thankfully, just because I've gotten uh, so much awareness. But then on YouTube, like I tried everything that all my counterparts in the green industry were doing on YouTube, and it just wouldn't take. You see some that do really well, like some of the videos do well, but consistently it was really hard. But when I started creating short form content, like memes, or it would just be, highlighting something real quick, then all of a sudden the views started to go crazy, and some of them were getting, on TikTok and Instagram, we'd be getting millions of views, and some of it was less ridiculous stuff, but some of it was great stuff. Um, so what happened was I love the conversations in our industry. I always have, especially because like I told you before, I'm a sponge. The problem was we would go to the conferences and the only thing we had at that point was the asphalt groups on Facebook. And they were hit or miss. You would miss posts. You didn't really get an in-depth conversation. And I love the stories from everybody within the industry. So there was one year, I want to say it was 20, I think it was after Cleveland. We went to 2019. We went to the 2019 show, and I remember one of my buddies and I were sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to do a podcast. There's guys doing podcasts in the green industry. I'm going to do that. And I recorded one, and the quality was so crappy. And it was just me talking about some stuff. And when I heard my voice back, I was like, no way. But I did get brave enough to play it for him. And he was like, dude, I think this would be great. You should do it. I listened to it again. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. That episode still exists. It was called the Pavement Podcast, and it's still on Apple somewhere. If you want to go find it and search it out, enjoy. Um, but it took a whole year before I really committed to doing it. And that was kind of because COVID hit and I didn't have much to do. There weren't going to be shows. And I was like, okay, let's just start this. And it just took off, man. And like within, I don't know, 2 weeks, we had our first sponsor. And then once that proof of product worked, when I would just talk to whoever, I always was able to find common ground and create a deal, right? So then it allowed us to create this machine at Blacktop Banner that I didn't intentionally mean for it to be a viable business. I just wanted to be able to cover my butt going to all this stuff and pay for some cool cameras and lighting and great microphones so that the quality was better, so it didn't look like trash because I was trying to keep up with the green industry guys. In our industry, I was telling everybody if you create content at all, you're already in front of everybody else. The quality really don't matter. Now, in the green industry, it did because they were really high levels, but I wanted to always be in front and have the best stuff. So once we started getting sponsors and different things, it created great opportunities. We went to some awesome places, did some awesome things. And that's kind of how the ball started rolling with Blacktop Banner. And it kind of became this underground industry cult thing of just like the community, I guess, for the most part.
Yeah, man. Well, I watched it, right? I watched it start at like literally watched you just execute on it because obviously we're content creators, so we end up seeing a lot of each other's stuff. And
Yeah.
like, the several times that I met you pre us sitting down and actually having a deeper conversation, I knew you as a different person than when I actually met you and sat down and had a real conversation.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember exactly where that was for sure. That was at the TCS event, like where we
Yeah.
actually acted and had that conversation. And I remember going to the dinner with the Callaways and just sitting and talking and being you in order to truly understand someone better, you have to be able to ask some questions that are a little bit deeper than just surface stuff, and also to feel the energy in the
Yeah.
present physical presence. And
Yeah. You got to be open.
you have to be open. And I felt like we definitely made that connection. And it was interesting. You always said something for years. You said, when the time is right, the time will be right. You've always said
Yeah.
that.
Well, you said when we first met, you said time and place. I had no clue what it meant. But as we kept going on, we kept interacting and stuff, I was like, oh, time and place is for sure going to be the thing that probably allows us to interact because uh, after that conversation, excuse me, with at dinner at the TCS event, um, it was like, okay, obviously we connect in some way, shape, or form. For me, it was always like, I don't ever want to muddy the waters so that we can't have conversations like this ever again. Right. Like, I've always valued, I think because of my upbringing and because I had such a hard upbringing and a hard journey to get from where I started to here, I always looked for the most value because once I came quote unquote successful, it didn't really change much besides like I could get stuff and I never really liked stuff. Like it didn't really phase me. But what it did was create opportunity for me to meet and interact with people that I may never be able to do again. And that was always highly valuable to me because you can't purchase that stuff, right? And I'm always open. Like I'll create that scenario like you and I had where we ask some deeper questions and I'm open because I want to see if you got what I got. I want to see if you perceive the world the way I do or differently, but yet something that I'm still interested in. And you have to be able to be open in order to be able to do that. Because if you just kind of, come as two books with the covers closed, you only kind of see what's on the outside. You don't get to see what's in there. So it was nice to be able to do that and kind of connect.
I agree. And, I think the other thing that is interesting for someone listening or watching right now is that maybe in this moment of expanding your peripheral vision on what we're speaking about right now, maybe there are people out there that you may be following or you are connected with, but perhaps you haven't taken a little bit of special time that you have to explore the relationship a little bit deeper to build it. And it doesn't need to happen quickly, it can happen slowly, but at least exploring those opportunities, I think, is super important. A lot of the time, people end up closing up because of emotional footprints of the past and trying to protect and guard their reputation and these kind of things. You see people that literally close down these opportunities to connect with someone that might actually help them to be a little bit more excited about life and to be able to be connected to that. I think is important, or at least exploring that. I know certainly for me, going through the development stages of my life up until I was around 36, 37 years old, I was a much different human. I was way more transactional, dude, like
Yeah.
way more transactional. I was not I was not connected with the universe and connected to quantum mechanics and studying it and like, just understanding the peacefulness of being alive and being on this planet with such great humans that are out there, regardless of what's spinning on social media, regardless of what other people are saying. I've come to a place of peace. And money is important, but
Mhm.
man, our relationships and the excitement of being alive so much more important now to me than ever, for sure.
Yeah, I still get it. I get excited not necessarily about like the deals, right? Or the job sold or whatever. I get more excited about the interaction that's going to take place, right? So, I mean, it's always fun to find the common ground and to do different things. We were just at Payvex. I had a appearance there. Was one of the I wasn't going to do any appearances, but then after having a conversation with the company, uh, they were just like, just be you, like just show up and just be you. And I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to do that regardless. Obviously I did a little more than just show up and be me, right? But the interaction is what made it fun. It allowed me to be comfortable. There wasn't like I ran into trouble with Blacktop Banner at the end of middle really all of 2024 because it became so transactional. And that's just not me. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to do. Um, I posted a picture today that now, kind of now that you're talking about being open and being able to create relationships with people. And One of the people, there was four of us in the photo. One of the people in there, I did have a deal with at BB. Two of the other ones, I don't, but they're a manufacturer and supplier. But I have been the coolest places with them all over America at many different times. So there's never been an exchange of like money for services, but there sure have been a lot of exchanges of laughs, smiles, memories, insightful conversations, productive conversations, like all these different things that if I didn't just go friend first, would have never existed. Right. So it's part of maturing, like you were saying, you're mid to late 30s, which I'm in my late 30s for a little bit longer. Um, but you kind of start to see that. I mean, you can't unlearn what you know. I had a conversation with Nikki yesterday. We were driving back from Nashville. She had to stop and do a site visit for her work in Illinois, and then we left her there, and Eli and I came to Wisconsin. But I was telling her, I was like, I can always go out and create a deal to create revenue. Like that's not the challenge. I can't unlearn what I know already, and I know how to find it wherever it is, right? Some of your early content alluded to that, like, hey guys, if you just do this, like you can create a living and create revenue that allows you to do more. Um, that was easy. The hard part is finding really good people along the way that makes your life feel full by creating and maintaining relationships with them. So it was fun to drive through this open country yesterday and me to point to actually some places where we performed work, right? I know that's a common thing with our industry. They're like, I did that one, I did this one. But we were in the middle of like cornfields and it was windy and covered with snow. And I was like, we actually were able to produce some revenue with crack filler by helping maintain grain bins out here in the corn belt with crack filler that we use in the middle of winter, right? We were creating revenue from nothing. I'm like, it was just like, I explained it to her as like on those like gold digger shows where they dig, or like maybe it would have been back when the gold rush happened, when they would dig holes and find a vein of gold and then they just stuck with it until the vein was gone. And I'm like, well, that's what we got. That's how it was down there. You'd find work, they would tell their buddy, and then you'd get a couple more. And then they'd be like, well, I got one more driveway over here. And then you'd run out. But it was such a rush and such a fun time that you can just do that once you learn how to do it. The hard part was creating the relationships and the fruit that comes from them that's way more valuable than anything we can create within the asphalt industry from putting crack filler, sealer, or asphalt down, at least in my opinion.
It's that's such a valuable thing for anyone to hear, dude, because I certainly will say this. Like right now, I'm in an office right now. I've got a screen behind me, but I'm in an office. It's, 20 feet by 20 feet. I'm looking out at like a beautiful lake with an 18-hole golf course over there, coconut trees over here,
Uh-huh.
with a fountain over there. My children inside doing homeschooling. My wife came to the door here while we were shooting this and dropped off an awesome plate of food right now. And I'm like, I'm sitting here going, a lot of people look at me and they're like, Judd, but you spend a lot of screen time, dude. Like you spend a lot of
Yeah.
time working behind the computer, not just a computer, like multiple screens in front of me. And so I'm sitting here and I have these debates from time to time as to whether or not I'm really living my life to its full potential.
Sure.
And and then I sit here and I think about all of the experiences that have been remarkable that I've been able to deliver to my family, to myself, to all the people that I've impacted in my life. And I sit here and say, you know what? I absolutely love what I do, man. I'm like so passionate about what it is that I do. I get to travel and do those things. I know you've impacted tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people through your content, through Blacktop Banner, through the YouTube channel, through
Mhm.
social media, through events, live events, speaking engagements you've impacted. Let me ask you, is it like, what's your why, dude? Like genuinely, what is really your why?
Oh shoot. I would say that that changed throughout the years, and I know it's a big thing. Um, I I I have I have a love-hate relationship kind of with the quote unquote motivation or tactical side of like what we do as far as like business ownership. Uh, I'm cool. Okay, let me phrase it this way. I like the idea of 10x if 10x makes you happy. If 10x don't make you happy, then I don't like the idea of 10x. I like the idea of like Simon Sinek's, it's finding your why. It's very important to find a why. If you don't have one, you're going to be wandering, right? You're gonna, like Jordan Peterson says, you're just wandering your ships without a sail. You're just at the mercy of whatever. And then that's a really tough place to be in. You can't be motivated. You don't get excited. You don't actually even get sad. You're just like, well, it's whatever. So that has changed throughout the years. Um, Early on was just survival, right? And then I had children, and children was provision. And once they started to get a little older and I started to learn a little more, then it became being a good mentor, right? And being a model that they could look at. And then once it started to get on the business side where things were doing well and it looked like things were great, I wanted to figure out how to be just the best business person I could be, right? That went well with Wis-Coat. And then when Blacktop Banner started, it was like, can I start something with nothing? And I literally started with nothing. I started with my phone, and that was it. The Anchor app, right? Gary Vee was like, hey, do the Anchor app, and you can start a podcast. Um, when it started with nothing, and we brought in, that thing churned out well into the six figures, which I never thought would ever happen. Um,
It's
from creating
awesome, dude.
content and having conversations, right? And it allowed us to be in some awesome places. Like I can't ever get over the fact that we sponsored NASCAR vehicles with the podcast. We had conversations with NFL players, um, some crazy musicians. We were at the IndyCar race in Nashville, right in the pits, hanging out with the guys, right? And then had some awesome conversations about tracks all around the world. And it's just been a crazy run. Um, but I think the main thing has always been what I value most along the way, right? And right now, I had trouble last year because the reason that we were doing things at BB was not the why. I'm I'm gonna do well enough for my desires as far as monetarily for the rest of my life. I know that already, right? So I don't really the why for Blacktop Banner we eclipsed that. So then it was really hard to like readjust it to monetary goals and set them up there, right? I was like, this that I'm not motivated by that. We can do it and I can turn it out, but I'm miserable doing it. And we did turn it out, but I was miserable. Um,
It was
I
like
had
the KPI was revenue. Like your
the
KPI was
KPI was
always revenue.
revenue. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was awful. We created cool stuff and we're able to do good things. And don't get me wrong, the faucet was open, right? Like
Yeah.
there was plenty. The problem was I didn't want everything from the faucet. I wanted certain things, and there was so much coming, and I was under the impression I'm supposed to try to grab all of it, that I just missed the good things. They were slipping through my fingers. And at the same time, I was under some stress from my personal life and then, having to run the businesses still. Kyla does a fantastic job. I'm terrible at letting go of the reins and delegating. Um, just because the way I grew up, there's still a little kid in there that is trying to survive. Right. And I tell him all the time, hey, bud, we're good. But he still is like, not at any moment, right? It feels like the rug could come out from under us. So I've done a lot better job. And she does a lot better job now of just not telling me or asking me. She just does it. And I'm like, oh, good job. Um, so that relaxed me a little bit. But um, the main thing was trying to focus on my why. Right now, I'm fortunate enough. To be in a relationship that delivers a lot of why because it's forcing me to be in two places at once, create safety there, create safety here, create stability in both places and for the future and make some adjustments, but also keep this. So right now, the why is really the challenge of keeping everybody happy and sustained, but then also creating the freedom that I want so that I don't have to be in Wisconsin all the time and I don't have to be in Nashville all the time. I enjoy Nashville. Like I'm really getting woven in down there. I'm meeting some awesome people and having some great conversations. And we've been in rooms now where I'm like, this is ridiculous that I'm sitting here with these people. Um, but that's just part of the game. I have a feeling for the rest of my days. But now I feel like my why, especially now, is to live a life that creates happiness. right? And it's not like the happy today. It's the happy every day, right? The longevity. There's not very many things. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. They asked if I was mad, and I was like, no. And then I was trying to think like when the last time I was really mad, like really, really mad. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can remember it. I think I've become so in tuned to letting stuff roll off of my back because of the bigger things that have burdened me in the past that that kind of went by the wayside. But then also I've become wise enough that the big things that burden me don't even burden me, right? Because I'm like, why would I take this so serious? There's nothing that I am going to go through that no one else hasn't went through. And they seem to be happy. They seem to be doing okay. And I have all the resources available through my connections and friendships that I've made to ask them any question about my situation that I want to ask them. Right. So and not just them, multiple of people. So we have this great, through building relationships, being kind, being helpful, and prioritizing that, I've created a safety net that is going to allow me to live life in a way where I'm really relaxed because my resources are plentiful, right? And unintentionally, I didn't mean to build resources. I was just trying to have fun with my friends and create memories and hang out. I always told everybody, like, my goal is for us to all get to the finish line because there's a gap. Like, with yourself and myself, we got people that are probably late 40s to their early 30s. There's a huge chunk of us that have come through this way together. My goal is for us to get to an event at our 55, 60 years of age, and we're all just enjoying hanging out, cheersing, and just being like, we did it. And I don't care what capacity that is, whether you are, you know, 8 figures, 9 figures, whether you're 7 figures, whether you're 6 figures, and you're living in a tiny little town in Wisconsin, and that's more than you'll ever need. I don't care as long as all of us are happy and we were smart enough to not take everything so seriously that it ruined certain areas of our life when it comes to all of our relationships. Like that's the big thing for me. That's my big why now. And it's not like I can go out and actively like do that every day. It's more of a mindset and more of a lifestyle. I'm happy with a lot in my life. Now it's like, okay, let's create this culture that my kids, your kids
Yeah.
can grow up into and that's the standard culture, right? For all of us going forward. And that's my big goal, my big why with any content that we really put out now.
How old is Eli now? 50?
14. He just turned 14 last week. Yeah,
What's it like?
he was
What
25 in his mind though, you
what's
know.
it like to be his father?
Uh it's um it's very ego building because he's a fantastic kid.
He is.
Very humbling because he'll repeat stuff that I say in times where he catches me, right? Where I should be doing what I have said to him. Um, and there's sometimes where he'll put something together quicker than I did, or he'll look at something a different way sometimes that I find incredibly valuable even at his age. I mean, he's an anomaly. You know, he's been doing asphalt work for 10 years. He's been line striping for 5 years by himself, essentially. Um, you know, he's unique. The the joy I have is that although sometimes I'm like, whoa, that's impressive. There's other times where I'm like, dude, that was dumb. Like that was completely dumb. And you know, he'll be like, yeah, I know. You know, he's learning along the way as well. I find it very fortunate and very rewarding to be a father in a way where the things I say, the things I think, and the things that I feel have value, right? They're creating a better life for him. Not, we were always so focused on, I want to give my kids everything I never had. And when we say that and we hear that, a lot of times that means that it's in the world, right? Motorcycles or a nice house, vacations, that's whatever. But there's things that I didn't have that he has. He works so freely because of a safety net of me creating a place where he knows if he messes up, I have his back. Right. I didn't have that. That's why that little kid still exists of like holding on to the reins of Wis-Coat, right? Because there's no like, no one's going to get me if I fall. Where him, I've explained to him what I've created is so that you can go out and enjoy the world, take it in, educate yourself from the world, from higher education, wherever, enjoy it, understand that I can't produce what I do though if you don't come back and work with me, right? So you still have to work in order for us to produce this type of lifestyle. And that lesson that's been taught to him, like he gets excited about work. His why is very similar to what my whys were, right? When I was young. And then we'll be out on a project and I'll be like, well, man, if we can get this done, I can get free for 2 days to go visit Nikki or do whatever. And he's like, well, if we get this done, I can finally buy that electric longboard I've been looking at and I'll be out here doing whatever. So we both are motivated to get the same end result done, but it's for two very different reasons. And he did two things this past year, Judd, that was like uh, it was surprising, but also was an affirmation that might be doing things the right way. One was we went to Chicago. We love watching soccer together. It doesn't matter if it's pro or not pro or whatever. Eli plays soccer. We just enjoy the game. And we were going to go to a game, Chicago game or something. And he had been working all summer. He had money on Venmo. He got his first sponsorship deal for line striping and was getting paid. So he had money on Venmo. And I come home one day and there was a David Beckham jersey on my bed. I was like, hey, what's this? He's like, that's a David Beckham jersey, duh. And I was like, yeah, I know that it's David Beckham. He's like, well, what? I was like, why is it here? He's like, it's yours. I'm like, no, it ain't mine. He's like, yes, it is yours. I bought it for you. And I was like, well, why? I was like, why? He's like, because you like David Beckham. And I was like, wow, thanks. That's the first time he's ever like took an outside consideration, seen something, was like, I want to buy this for my dad, right? And just bought something out of appreciation. And dude, I just was like floored, right? Don't get me wrong, he didn't buy anything for me since. So like it was a momentary thing, but I understand it's not a light switch. I understand it's a slow build, right? But he has that in his heart. So that was really good to know that he has that in his heart for people that he cares about, that he's thoughtful. The last thing was a couple weeks ago, I had been gone November. I might have been home 4 days in November. He was here in Wisconsin. His mom lives here. Him and I are really magnetic. So it's really hard when we get away from each other for a long time. It gets really tough on both of us. But I've been gone a long time. I came back and was like, hey, I set us up so that you can go to Payvex. We're going to do a couple things. I bought season tickets for Nashville SC so that, we can enjoy the soccer games here this year. We're going to go to the preseason one down here. Let's open it up. And he was like, dude, super excited about all this stuff. I get just about to bed. He's in his room. I haven't seen him for a couple hours. And I just about get to bed and I get an Instagram reel sent to me. And the Instagram reel says, realizing that your dad worked 24/7 while you were a kid so that you could live a life like this. And I thought that it was going to be like, you know, we've been in Lambos, we've been in palm trees, all this stuff. And it was none of that. It was a guy opened a refrigerator and it had food in it. And then it was like a living room with crown molding, right? It was these simple little things. And man, it just hit me of like, okay, you always want your child to appreciate what you've done for them. He's seeing it and understands that there's an appreciation. He understands my role, what his role should be. He also understands an opportunity that's been given to him. So I don't really care what he does, man, as long as he ends up happy. Like, he's a typical teenage boy. He's going to be a UFC fighter. He's going to be a professional race car driver. He's going to be a pro soccer athlete. He's going to own. We went through paybacks. He was like, I'm going to buy the Malden paver, the Lee Boy paver, and the Dynapack paver, just so that like I have some versatility, right? So he in his mind he's doing all these things, but for me that's a great thing to see that he believes he can do whatever. He's seen where I grew up. He knows how I grew up and he's seen me achieve things that I never thought I would ever achieve and be in situations where I never would. And he believes that he can do it. Being as I feel really, really fortunate to be born who I am and for him to be born my son, for me to think the way I do, for me to be in an industry that's created a way for me at 39 years old to witness a young man grow. And for me to happen to be in a position to instill some things that are very high value that he's going to carry with him into an adult is beyond the biggest blessing that I can think of in my life, right? Because those are the things that I wish, those are the things that I give him that I wish I would have had when I was young. The other stuff's just going to come, right? If you're that type of person, the rest of it's just going to come, right?
The expression of your why right there was really, really cool, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That was that was incredibly communicated and really, really inspiring. And for all those fathers out there right now, I hope that you're reflecting on some moments for yourself and your relationships with your children because it's never too late to really be that incredible father right now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think of it like a sandwich, it's everything that's inside, right? Because like I said, we've been at some cool races, we've been at some awesome concerts, we've been doing some cool stuff and looked at each other and been like, man, this is awesome. And then there's been times where we pull up to the riverbank here in Wisconsin, pop the tailgate down, throw a couple fishing lines in, and share a bologna sandwich, and we're like, wow, this is awesome, right? So, um, I don't really think it's the what you do or what you give or how it is. I think it's the meat in between all the stuff because there, I've been a lot of places, done a lot of cool stuff, and been really empty, and I can see it in people's eyes who are living the life that others would look at on social media and be like, whoa, this guy's got it all, right? And then in the meantime, in private conversation or just in observation, be able to see that they really, really could use some help, right? So that's a lot of the big goal now. Blacktop Banner, I closed it at the end of 2024. I've been creating content just on my personal brand. I've been doing interviews for a project that I'm doing called Hard Times. And it's people that I've interacted with, people that we know, high profile people within the asphalt industry and a little bit outside, manufacturers, suppliers, contractors, anybody, right, that I know that has encountered hard times in my journey, right? So during their time, I'm asking them to be very candid. I created relationships with them where they're fine with being open and they understand that I'm going to be respectful with the information they put forth. So I'm doing these interviews that I hope to put out as a podcast at some point, but I'm really hoping to create a book. I have some great connections with some doctors in the industry that have spoke on mental health and different things where some people don't realize that they're having a trajectory towards some issues and some realize that they're in it and can't get out of it to where that's a big reason for the why now is to create an impact on the industry. People say, I want to impact my industry. Well, tell me how, right?
Tell me how.
Yeah, tell me how. I want to we want to change the industry. I want to impact the industry. You're not going to change it by just showing me some tasty videos of drone shots of you paving a lane, dude. Everybody does that. Really focus on something. And for me, this has been the big focus because I encountered it last year. It was a real struggle. Thankfully, I had the resources in our industry and connections um, with stories that I've heard or people I've spoke to know who to ask what, right? And it got me out, helped get me out of that hole. Um, but yeah, it was scary. And I just worry about, there's some statistics that are scary, man. Dr. Vince Hoffelli has spoken on them a couple times, and I hate the statistics. It's, certain percentages of us are going to die from suicide, overdose. The workplace injuries is actually the smallest issue when it comes to death within the asphalt industry. Like it really isn't. Even like people standing outside getting hit, we see that all the time. There's a big push for safety and different things, but really it's internal. It's within the people who are working within our industry or at the helm. And I really want to focus on that for probably the rest of my career of like how do we really, really help people. There's so many people out there that can help people achieve their business goals. I really want to help them achieve their happiness goals, man. And if they can rest easy at night and get some sleep, I know the wonders that did for me. It would be great to help people with that. And to be honest with you, sometimes just telling somebody, yeah, I know what you're going through, will do that. Right. So it's really simple to start with that type of stuff. That's another big why. I got a couple you come to find out, right? One's a
Yeah.
kid that is strangely taller than me and much more athletic. And the other one's the guys, my friends within the industry and, you know, the females, males, anybody within the industry, really.
Dude, I I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for people to have a channel to connect with that doesn't really exist that I know of.
Mm.
And so whatever we can do at AK to support you there and to support the people through that channel, we're all in. So know
I
that
appreciate that. Yeah, yeah,
100%.
it's a really unique. You and I are in unique situations because we are the two people that people go to when they're just starting out. Like in this industry, we are the two go-to people. We've seen a lot of people post about it. People talk about it all the time that it's you and I. The the thing I believe that we why we work so cohesively is because we really focus on two different areas of helping people live happy lives and succeed. And it's a lot easier when you're partnered up with people or if people know their roles to where, hey, I'll focus on this part. How you doing over here? Well, so and so's helped me focus on this, and then this person's helped me focus on this. Uh, we've had a lot of people where they'll be interacting with both of us at the same time, and they'll come to me, and I'm like, then that's great. You're set up. You got this going on, whatever. How are you sleeping? How is your wife taking this information in, right? What are you doing? Are you allotting free time as well in your schedule, right? The people will be like, hey, I'm using whatever. It's really helped me in my schedule. I'm super efficient now. I'm like, okay, where's the free time in there,
Right.
right? Because otherwise, you're going to end up going a trajectory where I ended up or where a lot of other people ended up. And I'm here to help you succeed. What's the point of getting all the things and all the stuff or doing whatever if you're going to be burned out, right, at 30? Because we're trying to get to 60, right? So we're really fortunate. And it's great to have the support from you and from all the other organizations within the industry as I kind of turn the page and turn a chapter and focus on the rest of the runway here.
Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate your time here today, man. I know that all the people who are going to watch this will be impacted or listen to it, of course, but I think that's, conversation, important conversations are as important as you really make them.
Mm.
And I hope that for all of you that have listened and watched today, that it was important to you and you left today with some perspective and being able to actually have just maybe some clearer thought of the direction that you're moving in. I appreciate all your time, brother. And just if somebody wants to follow you, where can they follow you or connect with you?
Yeah, if you type in Marvin Joles anywhere, especially at Marvin Joles on anything, you're gonna find me. Whether that's Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. I've been crazy about LinkedIn lately. I love it. It's
Me
one of
too.
my favorite interactions is on there. So a lot of times you'll hear me say, "Don't take it all so serious as you shouldn't." There's no need to. And the other thing you'll hear me say a lot nowadays is pack light. Like, don't bring all the stuff with you, man. It'll break your back over enough time. So pack light. Don't take it all so serious. And just follow me along if you have any questions or you want to DM me or email me. My emails are on there. My cell phone number's on a lot of that too. So anything I can do.
Cool. Appreciate your time, man. Thank you for everything, for all that you do for the industry. And I look forward to another session with you coming up in the future. Maybe at World of Asphalt, we'll do something.
Sounds good, man. I know ever since our first conversation where we opened up, we never went back to the old conversations. So
That's
I'm
for
cool with
sure.
whatever we do going forward.
Cool. And for all of you, CARE. CARE is the acronym for today. Create a remarkable experience and apply it, tattoo it on yourself. Well, maybe not quite literally, but yeah, there you go. Love it. Marvin, thank you, brother. Take care.
Thanks, Jed.
See ya.